Hey guys, and thanks for stopping by to watch another Middleman review. This time we're going to be doing a TV show called Preacher. Last night, the series premiere of the pilot episode #1 was on, and it is based on a very successful comic book series called Preacher. So, just a warning for you guys, this is going to be a very spoiler heavy review. So, if you have not seen this episode, please go watch the episode, then come back and we'll talk about it. Or if you just don't care, then whatever, just don't complain that there's spoilers. You have been warned. Okay, so one thing I'm going to say right off the bat, and being someone that read the comics, I noticed right away they have changed it from what the comics are. The storyline, right, the way they're introducing the characters in the show, things that are happening, isn't the same as the comic book. Which makes me wonder, the way AMC seems to do it with The Walking Dead is they changed the story of the comic books. You know, in The Walking Dead, different people die, different things happen than the way the comic book goes, and they just keep the overall big story points the same. I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing with this. I don't really want them to do that with this one just because the story is already complete, whereas The Walking Dead is still going and they can change things, whatever. Preacher is a done story. I think it's 6 volumes or 7, or I don't know. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I read them all, and I don't own all of them, just a few. But the point is, I don't. There's so many intricate story points with this one, and so many crazy things that happen with angels and demons and violence and the way characters connect with each other, and backstories and stuff that I really hope they don't change it too much. But at the same time, I understand why they may add or take things away because there is some crazy ass shit that happens in the comic book. Some of the characters are very twisted and weird, and I don't even know if you can put it all on TV. And since the series is a complete series and a TV show, they tend to want to go on and on and on and on. If they ran through just like the comic books and then got to the end of the show and finished the storylines of the comics, then what do you do? So I think they're going to go in a direction where they kind of change the story a little bit. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing because we've only had one episode so far. The one disappointing thing to this episode to me is that it was a little bit slow. Not a whole lot happened, whereas the comic book, things are happening right away, all sorts of crazy stuff. Now, we did have some action scenes and different things like that, and this is just an introductory show. It's introducing us to who these characters are. But I feel as if people that have not read the comic books and don't know where the storyline goes, it may not have hooked them, which worries me because I want this show to complete the story arcs of everybody. So I'm hoping we all stick with this show for a few episodes, see where it goes, and I'm hoping it picks up the pace a little bit, and I hope it starts following the storyline of the comic a little bit more. And for those of you that maybe watched the very first episode of Preacher and you didn't read the comic books and you don't know where these storylines are going on and you're like, what is going on? There's like little things of light zooming around making people blow up and there's a vampire guy and what is this show? Well, to kind of give you a basic summary of what the comic book is without spoiling where the comic books go, basically there's kind of this otherworldly thing called Genesis, which gets absorbed into the Preacher, and there's guys after him that want to get that and kill him, and there's a lot of other shit that happens. It's a very complicated story, which is why you probably just got to stick with the show to see where it goes. One thing I noticed right away as well is the casting. Dominic Cooper, I love as the Preacher. I think he is the perfect guy for that role. The guy, I don't know what his name is in real life, but the guy who plays the vampire dude, the guy who was on the airplane who fought the guys and jumped out, and that guy, I think he is perfect for that role as well. One downside to the casting, I would say, is the girl who plays Tulip. Now, she looks completely different than she does in the comic book. In the comic book, she's like a blonde white chick. In this, obviously, it's very different. That's not the problem that bothers me. I can understand why they maybe just cast different looking characters. Maybe they like the way she acts. Problem is, I don't like the way she acts. Something about the scene when she was with those kids and she was making like a rocket launcher thing or whatever, her acting, at least in this first episode, to me, just feels a little bit overdone. It feels almost like she's auditioning or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like her facial expressions are just a little overly exuberant. I don't know, it doesn't feel natural to me. And so whenever she's on screen, it kind of takes me out of it. She doesn't sell me as the Tulip character that I know from the comics. Being a new watcher, if you're watching this and maybe you love Tulip, hey, that's cool. It's just I didn't. Another pro to this episode, and what I think the series is definitely going to have going for it moving forward, is the action scenes, though. There were some sweet fight scenes in this episode. Tulip in the car fighting those guys going through that cornfield was actually pretty cool. The vampire guy up on the airplane, they were kicking some ass, and the way he jumps out of the airplane and just crash lands and he's alive and like eats the cow, I guess, to survive. And Preacher, when he fights that basically family beating guy who's a total douchebag, and he breaks his arm, you see the bone out, and the one guy who stabs his heart and like rips it out. I mean, there's a lot of violence, and this is the only first episode, so I really liked all of that. They had just enough gore, just enough violence, and the action seemed pretty legit. You know, it wasn't just shaky cams. You can't tell what's happening. You could see what was happening, and it was very entertaining. I also like this that the show is not straying away from certain characters like Arseface, which is that guy that has basically an asshole for a mouth. He has an interesting story arc in the comic. They haven't really gone too in depth with his character yet, and he does look a little bit different than his character in the comic does. In the comic, he looks a lot more jacked up. But hey, the fact that they're basically putting an asshole on a guy's face on network television, that's cool with me, man. I'm not going to give the episodes ratings each time. What I'm probably going to do is after the season ends, I'm going to give the season a rating overall, because you know how TV shows work. Sometimes you have some slow episodes, some better episodes, etc. I suggest everybody that's watching this watch at least 3 episodes. We only have 1 episode so far, but every TV series, the pilot episode is never the best episode. Usually you got to watch about 3 episodes to really know if it's a good show or not. And if you're not locked in by the 3rd episode, then stop watching, and that's usually when channel networks know if the show's going to survive or not, and we'll know by then. So stick with me next week and the week after that, and we'll see where this show goes, okay? So guys, comment below, let me know what you think of the idea of them changing the storyline to the comic. Do you want them to stick to the comic exactly? Do you want them to kind of stray off in new directions? Do you want them to do like The Walking Dead, where they just completely change certain story arc items? I don't know. What do you guys think? Also, for those of you who have not seen the show, comment below and let me know what you thought of the first episode. Did it hook you? Are you kind of like, eh? Are you kind of like, fuck, this show sucks? Let me know. Let's talk about it. Sorry about all the jump cuts. My cat is coming in and out of the freaking door, and I have to keep going over there. Also, in my last review for Neighbors 2, I asked you guys for some Twitter questions or questions in my comments below, and I would answer them in my next video, which is this one. And I only did get one question from a guy named Jack Newton. And Jack Newton asked me, what is a movie that you like that nobody else likes? Well, to be honest with you, there's a lot of movies that I like that not a lot of people like, as I'm sure a lot of people have had those situations happen. For me, it's actually more like 2 movies that are the biggest controversies to ones I like that not a lot of other people like. A lot of people love the first Matrix movie, as do I. Now, the sequels, however, The Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, a lot of people shit on those movies. They hate them. They wish they didn't exist. Why'd they fuck up those movies? For me, I love those movies. I love The Matrix Revolutions. I loved Matrix Reloaded. I love the whole trilogy all put together as a big story arc thing. The biggest complaint I hear from those movies is, I didn't get this. I didn't understand why this happened. Why did this character do this? The party scene, the big dance rave, that's stupid. The architect, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I think the biggest reason people don't like those movies is because they don't understand it. Every time I've argued with somebody about those movies, it's because I hear their arguments and I'm like, okay, you obviously don't get it. And then I'll explain it to them. And they'll kind of be like, oh, yeah, I guess, you know. And then, so yeah, ultimately those are the 2 movies that I just love that nobody else can stand. And to be honest, when I first saw them, I didn't really understand them either. I had to watch them a few times. I watched a bunch of commentaries. One thing I think is really cool is actually if you watch the commentaries to Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, the directors actually put critics that don't like the movie as commentaries on those movies. Like, that's pretty unique, you know. Not a lot of movies would put critics that don't like their movies as the commentaries on their DVDs. They also have some religious experts that do, you know, their versions of it. So I've watched these movies so many times with different perspectives. I've listened to the arguments that people don't like it. Ultimately, though, I think they are badass, and nobody can sway me from that decision. That's the end of it. And just like that video, I want to ask you guys to freely ask me some questions either in the comments here or on my Twitter at Middleman. Make sure you follow me on there. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Please push the like button. Share this video. Let's get my channel around. And stay tuned for some more movie reviews if you can handle it. Go.